Then what of the southern stronghold? Jian Chen asked. Honored Imperial Protector, yesterday we've heard that the Imperial advisors from the Qin Huang Kingdom have already reached the southern stronghold. Both sides were then brought into a giant battle where 2 of the Heaven Saint Masters from the Andreas Kingdom died. The rest were immediately injured and retreated, forcing the army to temporarily retreat. General Lu spoke with some excitement. The Jesson Kingdom was still alive for now. Jian Chen nodded in satisfaction. An outcome like this was within his expectations. With 5 imperial advisors gathered at the south, Chong Wuji and 2 other Heaven Saint Masters from the Jesson Kingdom, there was a total of 8 Heaven Saint Masters defending the southern stronghold. Unless there was some sort of unexpected development or the Andreas Kingdom dispatched all of their Heaven Saint Masters, the southern stronghold should be fine. Because of the military might of the Qin Huang Kingdom, they could hold off anyone the same level as them with their Heaven-tier battle skill. General, there is an important report. Suddenly, a loud voice called out from outside. Hearing this, the general looked grim as he barked, "Enter." An armored commander came walking in as he bowed toward Jian Chen and the other 3 men. With a letter in his hand, he spoke. "General, the Blue Wind Kingdom have started to pull back their armies and sent a letter of surrender." General Lu's face lit up in joy as he began to read through the letter. Smiling widely, he laughed. "Wonderful! How absolutely wonderful! This letter was personally written by the King of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Not only have they pulled their armies from our borders, but they are willing to compensate for the damages they've incurred. Their envoys are on the way in hopes that negotiations can be made with our kingdom." Upon hearing this, the headmaster of the Kargath Academy and the other Heaven Saint Master let out a look of pure relief that could not be contained. By now, the eastern, western, and northern strongholds had been completely stabilized. Only the southern stronghold had the army of the Andreas Kingdom within their borders. However, no one was worried anymore. The southern stronghold had 8 Heaven Saint Masters, meaning the experts were literally as numerous as the clouds. The Andreas Kingdom simply had no chance of winning against the 8, so their surrender was only a matter of time now. As the 4 began to calm down, General Lu sat down. "Honored Imperial Protector, your trip to the Chengon Kingdom went smoothly, I take it." Jian Chen nodded. "You needn't worry about my trip to the Chengon Kingdom. I've already solved the problem. Their kingdom has guaranteed that they will no longer act against the Jesson Kingdom." "That's good, very good. This is all thanks to the Honored Imperial Protector's tireless work. Our country truly thanks you and will remember your deeds for all eternity." General Lu spoke with gratitude. With that, Kafir and the other Heaven Saint Master spoke of their thanks as well before leaving. Jian Chen took the white tiger cub with him and arrived at the inn where the mother and son were staying. Only the officer, General Lu had ordered to pamper the 2, was around. On the table, there was a wide assortment of exotic foods with sweet-smelling fragrances that would make anyone hungry. Chapter 433, Traveler Returning Home, 2. Upon seeing Jian Chen, the officer cordially greeted Jian Chen. After the officer left, Jian Chen spoke to the mother and son. "Auntie, Sans, is this place agreeable with you?" "All is well." That officer was a little too enthusiastic. "We felt a little too pampered," the mother joked. After she replied, Jian Chen exchanged several words with the mother and son before finally knowing their full names. The mother was called Shen Fang and was born in a small mountain village. Both of her parents had died long ago and Kendall was someone who had grown up with her. Even from the start, the 2 of them had felt an affinity for each other and had been married there in the village. San's real name was Ken Shaosan. The name was a little crude sounding, but the village elder had been unable to find a better sounding name. At Kendall's suggestion, Ken Shaosan became San's name. Kendall had been the strongest in the village. By the age of 21, he had been able to form his saint weapon. As a result, he had often gone into the mountains to hunt for boar, thus earning the respect of the entire village. However, the village life did not suit him despite the comfort it provided. For the sake of improving his strength and making a better life for his son, he left the village by himself shortly after Sans was born to travel the continent. For the next 20 years, Kendall would come back home every so often with plenty of money. The family situation back at home had slowly improved, and he even had several Class 1 monster cores for Sans to cultivate with. As their family life grew better, they eventually came to a second-class city in the Chengon Kingdom and opened up a small inn for 10 years. "My lord, our Kendall would always come back home at least 2 or 3 times every year. But in the recent years, he hasn't sent a letter back home or came back even once. My lord, please tell me. Where has my Kendall gone to? The mother Shen Fong asked once more with a hopeful look. Jian Chen gave a mental sigh as he wiped away any emotion on his face. Auntie, a few years ago, Uncle Kendall came across a very profitable mission and had to go to a faraway kingdom. It's already been 2 years, so I'm sure he'll be home soon. Jian Chen didn't wish to worry the mother and quickly came up with an excuse. Although he knew that sooner or later the truth would come out, if he could delay it for now, then the two would come to terms that something had happened to him by themselves. They would at least be prepared, and when the time came for Jian Chen to tell them, they would not be as hurt. Shen Fong had no reason to doubt Jian Chen's words and had a small smile on her face as she muttered. No wonder he didn't come home after all this time. He's already gone far away. After a while, Jian Chen left the place. He had already planned to take the two back to Lore City where the Chongyang Manor was. With his identity, he had no doubt that no one would dare do anything to them. For the sake of the two, Jian Chen waited another day to let them rest. Otherwise, he would have long since rushed to the Chongyang Manor. On the second morning, news from the southern stronghold reported that the Andreas Kingdom had finally fully withdrawn their entire army from the Jessen Kingdom. At the same time, they sent a letter to the king of the Jessen Kingdom with a promise to compensate them for the war. Aside from this, the Andreas Kingdom had also sent the Prime Minister and Prince to the Jessen Kingdom as a sign of good faith. Simultaneously, General Liu received an edict from the king in hopes that all the generals of the strongholds could oversee the retreat of the enemy armies and maintain the strongholds once more. By now, the war that had gone on for many months had finally come to an end. But this final conclusion was something that no one had expected. Many of the surrounding kingdoms that had remained impartial to the war sent men to find out what had happened. Not too long afterward, shocking information made its way around. However, only the major powers or leaders of each kingdom understood what the information meant, shocking them all. The Jessen Kingdom had managed to build a relationship with one of the 8 great powers, the Qin Huang Kingdom. Although the distance between the two kingdoms was extremely far, the might of one of the 8 great powers could not be belittled. Aside from this, the Jessen Kingdom also had a strange youth that was unbelievably strong. He had first appeared at the Pingyang Kingdom's imperial palace and taken the king himself captive. After that, he had gone to the Chengan Kingdom and killed 2 experts over there before finally destroying the kingdom's Yangji sect. He had also killed over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters from 3 different kingdoms. Such an achievement was astounding. Did the Chongyang clan's ancestor return? No one else but him could have such a strength. Has the ancestor of the Chongyang clan made the breakthrough? Many experts who heard the news immediately thought of the same person. After hearing that the Jessen Kingdom and the Qin Huang Kingdom were related, the news began to spread farther and farther away. Even the kingdoms countless of kilometers away heard the news and dispatched several envoys to come congratulate the Jessen Kingdom. About 100,000 kilometers away, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom heard the news. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was one of the strongest kingdoms around and easily had double the population of the Jessen Kingdom. Within the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, there were 16 Heaven Saint Masters. Within the imperial palace of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, the monarch sat in a giant throne room with an elder and youth kneeling down before him. Sitting upon the dragon throne, the king of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom gave a gentle sigh. Who would have thought that the Jessen Kingdom would have become good enough friends with the Qin Huang Kingdom that they were given several imperial advisors for assistance? How inconceivable! The king looked down to the 2 people kneeling in front of him. My son, Prime Minister Che, I've called you here today to give you an important mission. I want you to set out to the Jessen Kingdom tomorrow with gifts for them. Ascertain the relationship between the Jessen Kingdom and then the Qin Huang Kingdom. Prime Minister Che, you should know what to do afterward. Your servant understands. The elder spoke. Good. The king muttered before speaking once more. The lands that the Jessen Kingdom occupy are extremely fertile. Provided they are given time, they will sooner or later develop into a kingdom that is no weaker than our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. No matter what relationship they hold with the Qin Huang Kingdom, it is worth our time to make friends with them to benefit us. I've heard that the king of the Jessen Kingdom dotes upon the Princess Golan, who is rumored to be the most beautiful woman in the Jessen Kingdom. She even has a talent for cultivation as well. My son, your priority is have her hand in marriage so that our 2 kingdoms will be tied together by marriage. Your son will follow father's order. With the Great War coming to a close, all of the Heaven Saint Masters protecting the strongholds were withdrawn as well. By the second day, Jian Chen and the others planned to leave, but before they could do so, General Lu suddenly found them and said, "Honored Imperial Protector, we hope that your group will be able to give us the honor of receiving you at the Imperial Palace." Without hesitation, Jian Chen replied, "I still have something important to do, Xiao Tian, you go in my stead." "Yes, Imperial Protector." Xiao Tian bowed. There was a regretful look on the general's face, but he understood the meaning. It was beneath an Imperial Protector of the Qin Huang Kingdom to attend such a meeting, but having a regular Imperial advisor was still more than enough face for the Jessan Kingdom. "Imperial Protector, where should we go to find you afterward?" Xiao Tian spoke. "Go to Lore City. I will be heading there in a short moment." Jian Chen spoke. Lore City. General Lu immediately made note to remember the name. After the exchange, Jian Chen took both Shen Fang and Sans away from the city and speed off into the distance toward Lore City. It was as if he had entered a whole new world where many years had passed. Jian Chen had left the Chongyang Manor many years ago as a result of the Hua Yun sect. Forced to hide his face, Jian Chen had to leave the Jessan Kingdom. When he was a young child, he never would have thought that he would have made the transformation to become a triumphant hero. Jian Chen flew through the air with the wind blowing past his face and whistling in his ears with a sharp sound. The mother and son were protected by the wind element around them, meaning they could freely fly without a problem. Jian Chen had a strange look on his face as he looked forward and thought to himself, "Chongyang clan. Will you still remember the name, Chongyang Xiangtian? Hua Yun sect, how clearly do you remember the youth that you forced away?" Chapter 434, Traveler Returning Home, 3. Lore City was a first-class city of the Jessan Kingdom, but there were several other first-class cities, so this city didn't have much weight to it. Within Lore City, there was a total of 4 great powers: the Chongyang clan, the Tianling clan, the Cheng family, and the Yanshi clan. These 4 powers represented Lore City's strongest and were all separated within the 4 cardinal directions of the city. Out of the 4 of them, the Chongyang clan had the grandest history, going back to when the Jessan Kingdom had been established, with the Chongyang clan making their home here. At that time, within a fancy and sweet-smelling room within the Chongyang Manor in Lore City, several people could be seen talking to each other. Within the room, a white-robed woman around the age of 30 could be seen pacing the room restlessly. Despite the restless air around her, she still had an uncommon air that added to her personality and made her look very beautiful still. "Fourth sister, are you here?" Suddenly, a knock on the door could be heard as a soft-sounding voice made an appearance on the other side. At the knock, the woman pacing inside the room opened the door only to see another beautiful woman around the age of 30 as well. "Second sister." Upon seeing the woman on the other side of the door, the woman wearing the white dress greeted the newcomer. After being welcomed into the room by the white dress-wearing woman, the second woman spoke. "Fourth sister, I've noticed that you've been pacing around frequently these days. Has something happened?" The fourth sister let out a sigh as she gathered her thoughts. "Second sister, I've felt restless these past few days. It's been quite difficult to calm down, but I don't know what's causing this feeling." The second sister's eyes lit up in realization as she let out a gentle sigh. "Fourth sister, are you thinking of Xiangtian again?" At the name, the fourth sister immediately went quiet and tilted her head down in sorrow as tears began to appear in her eyes. Seeing the state the fourth sister was in, the second sister could only mentally sigh to herself. "Fourth sister, please don't be too hard on yourself. Xiangtian was a genius that surpassed all others. The heavens will surely protect him. It won't be long until he returns." As she spoke, her voice began to fade away as if she herself was losing confidence in her own words. At the age of 15, Chongyang Xiangtian had been forced to leave the Chongyang Manor in order to escape the wrath of the Hua Yun sect. It had already been several years since that event, and the clan had sent people to look for him, but they returned without any news of him. It was almost as if Chongyang Xiangtian had disappeared into thin air, and no matter how much they tried, nothing could be done. Thus, everyone within the manor had just assumed that Chongyang Xiangtian had come across some sort of misfortune. There was far too many dangers within the Tian Yuan continent, with murder being commonplace. Even if one was in a well-protected city, many ill-mannered mercenaries would oftentimes still kill people. Without even a word, a fight could break out at any moment for any reason. A child that was only 15 years old would find it hard to survive by himself in such a harsh environment. The second sister's words made by Yun Tian grieve even more. Her eyes began to well up with tears that slowly trailed down her face. Bai Yuntian's body began to shake uncontrollably as she sobbed. I have no idea where my Xiang'er is, nor if he will even return. After so long without any news, Bai Yuntian had been extremely worried about her only child. The second sister led Bai Yuntian to her bed and sighed. Fourth sister, don't be too hard on yourself. You and I both wish for the same thing. Mingyue's temper was too much. After her dissatisfaction over her engagement a year ago, she ran away in the middle of the night. Up to even now, I don't know where that silly daughter of mine has gone. As a single female drifter, I can't help but feel just as worried. Then there's eldest sister Ling Long. She must be more broken-hearted than the both of us. Who had all 4 of his limbs cut off, making life extremely difficult for him. He can only be a cripple for the rest of his life. That must be unbearable for him. I can only hope that when Hu wakes up, he will not decide to commit suicide. Outside of Lore City, an azure and violet light could be seen quickly descending toward the ground before disappearing within the forest. After several hours of traveling, Jian Chen finally arrived with both Shen Fong and Sans in Lore City. Jian Chen slowly walked in between several trees as he looked at the nearby city walls. His expression was quite complex, but that was because right around here was the home of his family. Although several years had passed, Lore City was still the same as it always was. Even the ancient scars from time and past battles had remained where they were. Outside the city gates, plenty of people could be seen traveling in and out. Perhaps it was because of the war, but there was plenty of men heading into the city. There was only the elderly since all of the able-bodied men had already been recruited for the war effort. Jian Chen looked at the close-by Lore City for a moment before walking with Shen Fong and Sans to the city gates. Now that the war was all but over, Jian Chen had been able to enter the city without any obstructions. After leaving Shen Fong and Sans at an inn for the time being, Jian Chen left almost impatiently for the Chongyang Manor. Shortly after that, Jian Chen arrived at the clan's manor. There wasn't any noticeable changes to the Chongyang Manor from a few years back. Hearing Yu Fengyan's voice, the soldiers outside the gates quivered for a moment before instantly remembering just why they were making a huge racket. Putting down their fists, one of them spoke. Fourth lady, there's a report. The fourth master, he has returned. Upon hearing mention of the fourth master, Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian both didn't know how to react. They were both stunned since even the fact that there was a fourth master was an unknown fact to most of the soldiers. Fourth master. Could it be? Yu Fengyan suddenly thought with a startling realization before revealing a doubtful expression. Xiang'er, it's Xiang'er. Bai Yuntian cried out before quickly running from the room with surprising speed. At the same time, the white-robed Jian Chen had entered the courtyard. When the doors opened, he could only see a familiar face and quickly came to a grinding stop. His entire body froze still as he looked at the white-robed figure of his mother, Bai Yuntian. Even he started to feel tears in his eyes. Bai Yuntian saw Jian Chen turn the corner. Although Jian Chen's current appearance was drastically different from before, Bai Yuntian had watched Jian Chen grow up. She would be able to recognize him anywhere. The mother and son shared the same blood and were tied together with a single string of fate. Right now, whether it was Jian Chen or Bai Yuntian, both sides could feel an indescribable feeling within them. The separated mother and son were finally reunited once more. Bai Yuntian could only stand right in front of her door with her eyes looking straight at the familiar handsome face of Jian Chen. Her entire body began to shake with emotions as tears began to flow out from her eyes like a spring. Yu Fengyan had walked out as well only to see Bai Yuntian standing still. The moment she saw Jian Chen, her face suddenly froze in astonishment and utter disbelief. Jian Chen had left the Chongyang clan when he was 15 years old, meaning he was still an inexperienced child when he left. That age was not the proper age to head out into the world by oneself, especially with the Hua Yun sect chasing after him. The probability of survival was practically zero. Furthermore, Jian Chen had disappeared without a trace as well. From that day forth, he hadn't left a single clue behind for even the Chongyang clan to find him. Thus everyone had been convinced that Jian Chen had already been captured by the Hua Yun sect and had died a destitute death in a nameless grave. When Jian Chen had left, he was an inexperienced 15-year-old that had no bodyguards. How would he be able to escape from an experienced sect like the Hua Yun sect? Although Yu Fengyan had used all sorts of words at first to console Bai Yuntian, they had all been white lies since she too hadn't believed that Jian Chen would have been able to survive. But now, the person that had left without a word had finally returned out of nowhere. This made Yu Fengyan feel as if she was dreaming, that this was not really happening. Jian Chen's eyes had tears to them as he slowly moved toward Bai Yuntian. He could only feel anguish at the sallow face of his mother. "Mother, your child has finally returned home." Jian Chen's voice had a whimper to it as he finished speaking before tears finally began to flow down his cheeks. Bai Yuntian quickly wrapped Jian Chen in a tear-filled hug as she began to pour out the feelings she had felt over the years. Xiang'er, my child, you've finally come home. Your mother has missed you so much." "Mother, I'm sorry." Your child was unfilial. Jian Chen hugged his mother as the both of them continued to freely cry tears of joy. "The fourth master has returned. He really has returned. I didn't think that the fourth master was still alive. We all thought that he had come across trouble." Within the courtyards, more and more soldiers that knew about Jian Chen began to gather, while even those soldiers who didn't know about him started to talk to each other in surprise. Yu Fengyan finally snapped out of her delusion and looked at the two. She could only feel joy in her heart as she spoke. "Xiang'er, you've returned safe and sound. Your second aunt truly feels happy for you. Let's have the two of you come inside to talk." After she spoke, Jian Chen and Bai Yuntian followed Yu Fengyan into the inner rooms before she left to give the two some privacy. There were many things to be said. Within the manor, news that the fourth master had suddenly returned home spread through the place like wildfire. In some time, the entire manor was stunned. Even the eldest aunt Ling Long and the third aunt Bai Yushuang heard the news. Although they were shocked, the two of them did not go see him. Ling Long was looking after her child Chongyang, who was still in a stupefied daze that did not care for Jian Chen's return at that given moment. Bai Yushuang's relationship with Jian Chen's mother hadn't been the best, and so his return instead soured her mood. Jian Chen remained in his mother's room and continued to speak of every single event that had transpired after he left the Chongyang manor. Several things were hidden from his mother since they were far too shocking, and Jian Chen didn't think his mother would believe him if he told her of those events. If he said them now, the entire compound would come to hear about them and be surprised as well. From day to dawn, Jian Chen did not step outside. The mother and son continued to talk for hours on end. Suddenly, a large group of magical beast mounts stopped outside the manor. The majority of the riders were all sturdy-looking men that possessed powerful auras. In total, there were around 800 men that formed a giant line. Stopping right outside the gates, two men immediately opened the doors and shouted, "The clan leader has returned. Hurry and receive him." Chongyang Ba stepped off his Class 4 magical beast mount and tidied up his messy clothes for a moment before striding to the gates. Right behind him, every rider started to dismount as well to follow him inside quietly and obediently. As soon as he entered the gates, one of the servants came rushing over with a joyful expression. With a bow, he said, "Clan leader, good news. The fourth master has returned." Chapter 436. The feeling of returning home. As soon as Chongyang Ba entered the gates, one of the servants came rushing over with a joyful expression. With a bow, he said, "Clan leader, good news. The fourth master has returned." Chongyang Ba looked stunned for a moment. He had gone for several years without hearing about the fourth master, to the point where hearing about it felt a little foreign to him. Quickly, he snapped out of his befuddlement and his eyes became daggers as he spoke at the servant. "What did you just say?" "Clan leader, the fourth master, he has returned." The servant spoke once more with tears in his eyes. Chongyang Ba's eyes widened as he grew still and an incredulous look overtook his face. It had already been several years since his fourth son, Chongyang Xiangtian, had left the manor without any news or clues to his whereabouts. In his heart, he had secretly feared that he would never see his talented fourth son ever again. Thus he had felt wounded. Now, the fourth son he had originally thought dead had unexpectedly returned. He was not prepared for such a feeling and could barely believe his ears. "Are you speaking the truth? Xiang'er has returned?" Chongyang Ba's eyes stared intensely at the servant as his voice began to tremble with longing and hope. "Clan leader, my words are absolutely true. The fourth lady and second lady have already confirmed his identity. There can be no mistake." The servant replied. Hearing that the fourth master, who had mysteriously vanished many years ago, had returned caused the soldiers behind Chongyang Ba to become stupefied. Each one looked at each other in complete shock and confusion. Many of them were senior figures within the clan and had known about what had transpired in regards with the fourth master. In their hearts, They had already thought that the fourth master had already left this world, but not a single one of them had thought he would return just as suddenly as his departure. "Where is Xiang'er?" Changyangba quickly asked. This sudden development was extremely important to him. After all, he was his father. "The fourth master is currently in the fourth lady's room," the servant replied. In an instant, Changyangba's figure flickered away as he sped toward Bai Yuntian's room. At this moment, Jian Chen, his mother, and Yu Fengyan were sitting in the same room and talking to each other. The entire topic revolved around where Jian Chen had been the entire time he was gone. Although Jian Chen tried his best to water down the life-or-death situations he had experienced, the two women were still utterly frightened out of their skins. For her child, Bai Yuntian's tears had stained her clothes a long time ago and her eyes were a puffy red. The two women began to think about just how chaotic the outside world was. Although their beauty was not outstanding, they were still quite pretty in regards to the entire Lore City. With how strong the Chongyang clan was, just how could any regular person enter the illustrious clan? Jian Chen looked around his room with a nostalgic eye before speaking up. "You two can leave for now. I'd like to rest for a moment. If there's not anything important, please leave me be." "Yes." The two maids spoke and left the room, but their eyes reflected their disappointment. Not only was Jian Chen the fourth master of the Chongyang clan, but he was also very handsome. Both of the maids secretly wished to join beds with Jian Chen and perhaps make the leap to become a phoenix. Jian Chen stood in the center of the room as he looked around at each and every single item he had left behind. His mind couldn't help but think back to life when he was younger. A series of memories continued to fly through his mind, causing Jian Chen to feel it hard to rest. "Home. This is home, my home. I've finally returned." Jian Chen couldn't help but mutter to himself in a stupefied manner and some pain. He waited for this day for a very long time. The very thought of coming home had occurred to him many times before, and now, his wish had finally came true, bringing peace to his mind. For the sake of having today happen and reuniting with his Chongyang clan, Jian Chen had sacrificed many things and done many Herculean tasks. He had traveled the line between life and death many times and had nearly lost his life once. If it were not for the azure and violet sword spirits, he would have long since left this world, never to return. He had used his own blood to mark the path back home. Just thinking about the trail of memories that happened after he left, Jian Chen found them hard to stomach. Finally, his eyes let out a transparent but shiny teardrop. As if sensing the unrest in Jian Chen's heart, the white tiger cub grabbed onto Jian Chen's neck and began to purr as it rubbed its head against Jian Chen's face. A purring sound could be heard as if trying to console Jian Chen. Jian Chen slowly brought himself to his bed, and without any last thoughts, Jian Chen fell asleep. That night, Jian Chen's rest was utterly peaceful and free from worry. This was the very first true period of sleep he had since leaving. It was very comforting. It was unlike the other times where he had to maintain a guarded composure. The tiger cub didn't sleep at all and instead curled itself by Jian Chen's body. Its head continued to look left and right as it observed its surroundings. "Xiang'er, are you awake?" By the second morning, Bai Yuntian came by Jian Chen's room. Waking up, Jian Chen felt his body refreshed and very light-hearted, a feeling he hadn't had in a very long time. Was this the feeling of returning home? "Xiang'er, did you sleep well?" Bai Yuntian's motherly nature returned back to its original radiance as she asked her child. Jian Chen's return caused her to feel extremely cheerful, and her entire body seemed to shine, indicating she had slept well for once. Jian Chen and his mother spoke several words before leaving his room toward the eating hall for breakfast. As the two walked to the eating hall, Jian Chen could only think about the memories of back then. Every day he had followed his mother to eat breakfast as well. This feeling he was having felt extremely consoling. As Jian Chen and his mother entered the eating hall, the second aunt Yu Fengyan and third aunt Bai Yushuang were already eating their meals. By Bai Yushuang's side, a noble-looking youth could be seen. His age was not all that different from Jian Chen. It was Jian Chen's elder brother, Chongyang Ku. After several years of not seeing each other, the third aunt's face did not change much. However, Chongyang Ku's face seemed to have dropped slightly as his eyes looked to Jian Chen. His appearance was quite majestic with his pale skin, and although his age was far enough away from Jian Chen, his own appearance could match him. "Xiang'er has returned, third aunt, take a look." After so many years, Xiang'er has grown even more handsome. he could practically charm any woman under the heavens. Yu Fengyan laughed as she looked at Jian Chen with some concern. Chapter 437. Family dispute. By Yun Tian could only smile at Yu Fengyang's words. When it came to her child, she loved him dearly. Bai Yushuang looked at Jian Chen with furrowed eyes. Xiangtian, just what reason did you come back? The Hua Yun sect isn't someone our Chongyang clan can go against. Just what trouble are you trying to give us? Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian were both shocked by Bai Yushuang's words. She essentially objected to Jian Chen's return almost as if she never wanted him to return at all. The third aunt's words caused Jian Chen to feel slightly angry, but before he could say anything, Yu Fengyan beat him to it. Third sister, your words are completely unnecessary. Although the Hua Yun sect is indeed very strong, our Chongyang clan is not an easy target to bully. We have Chong Bai with us. You must know of the fact that he was able to kill many Heaven Saint Masters at the northern stronghold. As long as Chong Bai is here, the Hua Yun sect will not have an easy time moving against us. Xiangtian forced to leave his home, and for the past few years had endured much suffering in the outside world. Now that Xiangtian has returned, we should be happy, not throwing cold words at him. Bai Yushuang gave a cold snort before speaking ominously. Xiangtian has never been an obedient child and always enjoyed causing trouble. A few years ago, he hurt my Kuer, and later caused trouble with the Hua Yun sect despite only being there for a short amount of time. Now that he has returned, who knows what other trouble he has brought with him? Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian both looked speechless. They never would have thought that Bai Yushuang thought that way about Jian Chen. Jian Chen was a little angry at this. His eyes began to shine dangerously with a sharp light, making Bai Yushuang a little afraid to look at him. Third aunt, I know that you object to my being here, but you needn't trouble yourself with my concerns. Whatever trouble I cause, I will naturally absolve them so that they will not burden the clan. Jian Chen spoke. With just you? Bai Yushuang gave a look of loathing before speaking eccentrically. Fine then. You can show us just what you've learned from the outside world. Let's see you resolve the matter with the Hua Yun sect. Do not let the clan suffer for your troubles. The debt the Hua Yun sect has with me will naturally be returned. Jian Chen spoke emotionlessly. Jian Chen's words were brassy and arrogant in the eyes of Bai Yushuang, infuriating her. Mockingly she spat out, Xiangtian, this is not me belittling you, but the words of truth. Think about how strong the Hua Yun sect is. Have you forgotten about them so quickly? Going against the Hua Yun sect by yourself? Humph, even imbeciles can dream, I suppose. Jian Chen's head tilted with a dangerous gleam in his eyes. He had truly been angered by Bai Yushuang's words, but in the end, she was still his aunt and elder. Jian Chen had no wish to have any ill will with any of his family members. Since he truly cherished his entire family as a whole, he kept his mouth shut. His status was far different than what it was several years ago. Not only was he stronger than any Heaven Saint Master, he was also the imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom. With such a status, a trifling matter like this wasn't worth splitting hairs over, but Bai Yushuang's words and attitude was burned into Jian Chen's memory. Third sister, you're older than this, there is no need to cause such difficulty toward a child. Yu Fengyan's eyes narrowed with anger. What difficulty? My words are completely true. Bai Yushuang squinted to look at Yu Fengyan without conceding her point at all. Yu Fengyan began to grow even angrier, her chest began to swell with fury as she looked at Bai Yushuang. Third sister you, second aunt, there's no need for this. Jian Chen interrupted before giving a cold stare to Bai Yushuang. The stare caused Bai Yushuang to feel a little timid and instantly looked away from him. Third aunt, I respect you as my aunt and elder, so I will not dwell on your words. But in the future, I hope you do not regret your words today. Jian Chen suddenly spoke. Ah! Take a look everyone, look! He dares threaten me. Bai Yushuang immediately seized an opportunity to speak against Jian Chen even more. With her hands at her waist, she pressed on. Regret? What will I regret? Chongyang Xiangtian, are you going to use your own hands to teach your third aunt a lesson? Everyone look closely. See how this child talks. How he doesn't respect his elders. His delusional words. Just how outrageous is he? Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian's face hardened with anger. At that moment, a strong and firm voice could suddenly be heard. Haha, how lively it is today, everyone seems happy. A simply dressed Chongyang Ba could be seen walking into the hall with a cheerful smile, indicating just how happy he was. Chongyang Ba was a 40-year-old middle-aged man with the facial appearance of a 30-year-old. Despite his age, he still had the handsome appearance from his earlier youth, and his presence had a unique air to him. "My husband. Father." Everyone immediately spoke at his appearance. Chongyang Ba was extremely happy today. The moment he walked in, his eyes had immediately landed upon the figure of his fourth child, Xiangtian. Looking closely, the smile on his face only grew even wider, since in his eyes, his fourth child was not only handsome, but a man that was not to be trifled with. Truly, Chongyang Ba thought him to be a dragon among men, and someone that would seize the opportunity to win at any moment. This combination of factors left Chongyang Ba extremely happy, and he laughed out loud. This laughter expressed just how joyous he felt. With such an emotion, what more could a father want? After calming down, Chongyang Ba sat beside Jian Chen. "Xiang'er, you must have felt wronged after all these years." Jian Chen immediately felt warm at his father's words and replied, "Not even a little. Your child has learned many things from the outside world." "Good. Very good. Xiang'er is a true scholar." Chongyang Ba could only use those words to describe just how happy he was with Jian Chen. Seeing just how calm, well-tempered and handsome Jian Chen was, he couldn't feel any more gratified. He knew that his youngest child had truly grown up. Seeing how Chongyang Ba was treating Jian Chen, the nearby Bai Yushuang looked extremely unhappy. Since Chongyang Ba was concentrating on Jian Chen, he naturally missed Bai Yushuang's face. AI. Turning around, Chongyang Ba suddenly remembered something painful, and the joy faded away from his face, only for a pain-filled expression to replace it. Unfortunately, Ahu, at his words, Yu Fengyan and Bai Yuntian both sighed as well, feeling for Chongyang's disaster. Jian Chen immediately thought to his elder brother Chongyang, who instantly felt sad. "Father, your child wishes to see eldest brother." Chongyang Ba shook his head slightly without saying a word. Jian Chen could understand that his father was in deep pain. How could he not? Jian Chen and Chongyang who were extremely good friends, but now that Chongyang who was in such a serious state, Jian Chen couldn't help but feel pained as well. "Father, your child knows what has happened to eldest brother. Please don't worry, he will recover. He will definitely be healed." Jian Chen spoke. Chongyang Ba shook his head once more and sighed. It is easier said than done. To regrow his limbs, it would require a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Within the Tianyuan continent, not only are they exceedingly rare and hard to find, but we do not have any power to invite one even if we found one. A person like that is a person in a world different from ours. Jian Chen knew just how esteemed a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was. They were an existence that was as high as a saint ruler. Radiant Saint Masters were rare, and it was also hard for them to advance in rank. They were not like their fighting counterparts, and so a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was an extremely high-class existence. "Father, your child wishes to see eldest brother," Jian Chen stated once more. "Fine then." Chongyang Ba finally agreed. Without eating, he immediately walked to where Chongyang who was with Jian Chen and the other three aunts. Jian Chen walked behind Chongyang Ba into the room. Right now, Chongyang who was motionless on his bed, staring silently at the ceiling above him. On his motionless body, for bloodied bandages could be seen wrapped around his limbs. Chongyang whose mother Ling Long sat dejectedly by his side. Her hair was a mess and her face sallow. Both eyes were bloodshot and tear stains could be seen on her face, evidence that she had not washed her face in many days. "My lady, I beg of you, please eat something. You've gone several days without food." By her side, several maids were crying out to her with several plates of food and a washing bowl ready. Chongyang Ba sighed and waved the maids away. Standing by the bed with a sorrowful look, he glanced down at his eldest son. Chongyang who had all 4 limbs cut off and wasn't even able to eat or drink by himself. A life like this was worse than death. Chapter 438. Class 6 Radiant Saint Master Jian Chen slowly walked to the side of the bed and faced Chongyang Hu. Gently whispering, he spoke, "Big brother, do you recognize me? I am your 4th brother, Chongyang Xiangtian." Chongyang whose listless eyes regained a dim spirit to them as he slowly looked to Jian Chen's figure. With little emotion to his face, Chongyang who let out a pained smile before speaking with a rough voice, "Fo. Fourth brother. You've finally returned. Jian Chen let out a small smile. He and Chongyang, who had been good friends since they were small, but seeing him as he was now caused Jian Chen's heart to pang with grief. Jian Chen turned around to look at the people behind him. Father, eldest aunt, I have a few words I want to say to eldest brother. Would it be possible to be alone for a moment? Chongyang Ba nodded slightly. Xiangtian, you placate your eldest brother now, okay? With that, Chongyang Ba left with the other two aunts, leaving behind Chongyang, whose mother Ling Long, who was still standing there with a dejected look. Jian Chen walked up to Ling Ling's side and spoke softly. Eldest aunt, you needn't worry. I will definitely let eldest brother recover. Please let me console eldest brother for now. I have a method to help him recover. I first must have everyone out of the room so I can speak to him. Hearing this, Ling Long's eyes swiveled to him with a look of realization. Her arms trembled as she reached to grab at his hands. Xiangtian, your aunt begs of you, you must console your brother. Help him. Help him want to live. Your aunt begs you. Ling Long's face was filled with a pleading expression. She knew clearly what condition her son was in, and she knew that he had already lost his will to live. He couldn't take care of himself, drink or eat by himself, so he simply wanted to die. Living in such a fashion was a tormenting experience. Jian Chen nodded his head. Eldest aunt, you needn't worry. I won't let you down. Jian Chen spoke firmly. Jian Chen's words were enough for the eldest aunt, causing Ling Long to clutch at the straws of hope. Her originally waning spirit finally rekindled once more as she left the room, leaving behind Jian Chen and Chongyang Hu. Seeing such a familiar face, Chongyang Hu's eyes began to tear up as he thought back to the memories he had of the times in Kargath Academy. He could clearly remember when he had been bullied by Chang Mingxiang of the Hua Yun sect, who had hurt him until he was bruised. His fourth brother had taken revenge for him by fighting Chang Mingxiang and a dozen other students. In the end, Chang Mingxiang's arm had been cut off, forcing Jian Chen to leave his home against his will. The events from those years haunted Chongyang Hu's heart. He knew that he had been the cause that had forced his youngest brother to flee from his home. It was his fault that his fourth brother had fallen to such disgrace. This had always made Chongyang Hu feel guilty, since he was the one that implicated his own brother. When his fourth brother had gone silent for years after leaving, Chongyang Hu's heart had begun to think of the worst. Now that his fourth brother had finally returned, Chongyang Hu couldn't help but feel relieved, and that relief nearly helped him forget about his own wounds. Jian Chen sat by Chongyang Hu's side. Eldest brother, I know what you are feeling, but you must pull yourself together. Give me some time, and your fourth brother will definitely help restore your limbs. At those words, Chongyang Hu's face grew dim. Sighing, he replied, Fourth brother, you don't understand. In order to regrow a limb, one must have the strength of a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Your eldest brother will never be able to stand again. Chongyang Hu's face grew dark with grief and his eyes began to grow dim once more. Anyone could see that he was already starting to lose his strength to continue living. Jian Chen didn't say another word. Instead he extended his arm, and suddenly, all of the Radiant Saint force in the area began to gather in between his hands. In a flash, it had formed a milky white glow that started to shine brighter and brighter in intensity. Dazzling the eyes, the shiny ball of light lit up the entire room. If it were not for the fact that it was day, those on the outside would be able to see the strong rays of light radiating from the room. On the other side of the door, Jian Chen's mother Bai Yuntian looked astonished at the Radiant Saint force flying through the sky into the room Jian Chen and Chongyang Hu were in. Astonished, the look on her face grew to reflect her shock. What a strong amount of Radiant Saint force. Who could be doing this? Could it be? Bai Yuntian suddenly realized something. As a fellow Radiant Saint Master, she was able to detect the ripple of Radiant Saint force and the intensity in which it was gathering at. What startled her even more was the fact that she had never seen such a fast or strong gathering rate before. Only a Class 5 Radiant Saint Master would be able to accomplish such a feat at the very least. After leaving Chongyang Hu's room, Chongyang Ba and the other aunts were still feeling remorseful, so they had not yet noticed Bai Yuntian's sudden change in expression. Inside the room, Chongyang Hu could only stare in utter shock at the white light in between Jian Chen's hands. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, but he knew that this type of light was the Radiant Saint force that only Radiant Saint Masters could wield. Jian Chen's hands began to press down as the ball of Radiant Saint force started to converge around Chongyang Hu's body. After being surrounded by such a pure amount of Radiant Saint force, Chongyang, who suddenly felt something he had never felt before. It made him feel comfortable. This type of feeling was something that the low-class Radiant Saint Masters would never be able to accomplish. After a brief period of time, Jianchen finally put down his hands and stopped the Radiant Saint Force from flowing. Experiencing the comfortable bubble of Radiant Saint Force, Chongyang, whose previously pale face had some semblance of color to it. Even the wounds around his limbs had healed. In such a small amount of time, Jianchen had accomplished something none of the other Radiant Saint Masters had been able to do. Chongyang, who couldn't even speak because of all the shock he was feeling. He could only look at Jianchen for an extremely long amount of time in silence. Jianchen sat back down. Seeing the look of shock on his brother's face, Jianchen had a faint look of contentment. Eldest brother, you may not know this, but not only is your fourth brother a fighter, but I am also a Radiant Saint Master. I am only a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, but there is only a few steps away until I reach the Class 7 realm. Given some time, I will heal your body. Chongyang, whose face immediately began to surge with emotion while tearing up. His voice began to quaver as he spoke. Fourth brother, are your words, are they true? Are you really a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master? At this moment, Chongyang, who finally felt the strength to continue on living. Jianchen gave a faint smile. Eldest brother, did you not feel it? The Radiant Saint Force I can control is far stronger than any Radiant Saint Master that treated you in the past. Eldest brother, you needn't worry anymore. In some time, I will be able to regrow your limbs and make you normal once more. You must promise me to live until that day comes. Chongyang, who couldn't find any words to describe the feeling in his heart. At Jianchen's words, Chongyang, who had flung away any thoughts about wanting to die and his hope to live, had burst with a new fire. Fourth brother, don't worry. Your eldest brother will definitely wait for you. Your eldest brother will definitely continue to live. Seeing the shadows of death disappear from his eldest brother, Jianchen had a happy smile on his face before calling out to the people outside. Chongyang Ba and Ling Long both walked in, only to discover Chongyang, who lying in the bed in high spirits. All of the depression he had initially felt had been wiped away without a single trace of remnants. This change shocked and confused everyone on just what Jianchen had said to create such an effect. Bai Yuntian's eyes looked to her child with a loving look, having already guessed what had just happened. Ahu, are you okay? Ling Long had noticed the change in her son's expression and spoke in concern. Seeing his mother's sallow face, Chongyang, who couldn't help but tear up as he whimpered, Mother, don't worry anymore. Your child is fine now. Your child will definitely continue to live. At those words coming from her child, Ling Long suddenly felt the giant boulder weighing down on her rise up. Laying on the bed, she began to wail with tears. Just at that moment, a group of 1,000 men entered Lore City. Many of them carried a bright yellow banner that floated in the wind. On those flags, the giant words Hua Yun Sect could be seen. Now that the war had finally died down, all of the major powers that had took part in the war had returned home. The Hua Yun sect had been returning from the southern stronghold and were passing through Lore City to reach their sect monastery. Leading the group was a middle-aged man. This was the current patriarch of the Hua Yun sect, Cheng Fei, and was also Cheng Mingxiang's father. At that moment, a figure in pure black quickly ran over and reached the Hua Yun sect's group before being blocked by the two magical beast riders at the front. The patriarch immediately recognized the man and said, "Let him pass." The two middle-aged men who blocked the man immediately split way to let the black-robed figure run past. Getting close to the patriarch, he began to whisper something to him. Suddenly, Cheng Fei's eyes shined nastily as he barked out, "Chongyang Shengtian has returned home? Is that true?" "It is absolutely true." The figure spoke honestly. Cheng Fei's eyes grew bright as he waved his hand. "Advance. Continue toward Chongyang Manor." The Hua Yun sect immediately changed path and started to trek toward the Chongyang clan. Chapter 439. The Hua Yun sect at the gates Chongyang Manor. Jian Chen and the rest were still in Chongyang, whose room, talking to each other when a sound could be heard outside. "Clan leader, there is an urgent report for you." At this, Chongyang Ba gave the signal for the maid to open the door. Upon the doors opening up, one of the housekeepers immediately came frantically running in. "Clan leader, something major has happened. The Hua Yun sect is nearing our Chongyang Manor." Chongyangba's face immediately drained of color as he waved his servant away and wrinkled his eyebrows nervously. If Xiang'er's return was leaked and they caught wind of it, that means they still have not forgotten about the ordeal. Aside from Jian Chen, everyone else turned white, by Yun Tian the most. Hurriedly grabbing at Jian Chen's hands, her face began to show her worry for him. After being apart for so many years before finally being able to see her child again, Bai Yun Tian did not want Jian Chen to be forced to be a wanderer once more. Jian Chen guessed at what his mother was thinking. Feeling a small twinge of pain in his heart, he spoke, "Mother, don't worry. Your child won't repeat the actions of the past." "My husband," quickly called Chang Bai. "We heard what Chang Bai was able to do at the northern stronghold. With their 2 experts, I'm sure even the Hua Yun sect won't act rashly." Yu Fengyang spoke with some panic and worry. Chongyangba shook his head. Chang Bai and all of the other Heaven Saint Masters are currently at the Imperial Palace with the Imperial advisors from the Qin Huang Kingdom. This is a crucial time for them to improve relations with a superior kingdom. Who would give up such a chance? I believe that Chang Bai won't be back for some time. Then what do we do? Chang Bai is our only Heaven Saint Master. With him not around, how can we deal with the Hua Yun sect? Now that they are in Lore City, it won't be long until they arrive. Yu Fengyan spoke with concern. Jian Chen wasn't her child, but she was extremely worried for him nonetheless. "Second aunt, you needn't be concerned. I will take care of the Hua Yun sect myself," Jian Chen said. "Silly child, don't speak such foolish words. The Hua Yun sect is far too strong for you to deal with by yourself." Bai Yun Tian looked to Jian Chen and held him in her arms, afraid that he'd leave once more. "Mother, your child is not afraid of the Hua Yun sect," Jian Chen explained. Being at home warmed his heart and made him feel like a child again, almost forgetting about the troubles from the outside. Chongyangba spoke, "Xiang'er, you don't have to worry. Our Chongyang clan has a precious secret that has improved our strength to more than what it was several years ago. Although we've lost many men from the war, the Hua Yun sect lost just as many. With Chang Bai's heaven-tier battle skill, our strength isn't all that far away from the Hua Yun sect." In the past, she had treated Jian Chen indifferently, but now that Jian Chen had saved her son, she was especially grateful and had a better opinion of him. Seeing the 3 sisters standing by Jian Chen's side, Bai Yushuang knew continuing on would be pointless. With a last snort, she left the area. Ling Long walked up to Jian Chen's side and grabbed Jian Chen's hand. "Xiangtian, please don't take any offense and ignore your third aunt's words. The matter with the Hua Yun sect needn't be something to worry about. As long as Chang Bai is here, they will not dare be too presumptuous. However, that Chang Bai is truly a secretive person. I had no idea that he was that strong. If it weren't for the news from the northern stronghold, we never would have known. If we had known earlier, we would never have dared to let you run away. These years have truly been harsh for you." Ling Long spoke with an apologetic voice. Jian Chen had a faint smile to his face. "Eldest aunt, you needn't worry. Xiangtian is not someone that is easily bullied. Third aunt will sooner or later regret her words." "Mother, you underestimate fourth brother. My fourth brother is a genius among geniuses. As an older brother, I am far beneath his power." Chong Yong-hu smiled from his bed. In his heart, he was truly cheerful because he knew that his fourth brother was a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. No one had ever heard of one within the Jesson Kingdom before, and it was still rare among the entire continent. Seeing her child's face have such a happy smile, Ling Long felt happy as well. She knew that during Jian Chen's talk with Chong Yong-hu, he had somehow thrown away the despair he was feeling, causing him to want to live once more. So, her gratitude for Jian Chen had grown immensely. At the same time in the Imperial Palace of the Jesson Kingdom, 5 of the Imperial advisors from the Qin Huang Kingdom gathered at a dining table. There were more than 10 people gathered there. Aside from the king, the other people were the other Heaven Saint Masters from the rest of Kingdom. This was a gathering that no regular person could attend, and even the Prince of the Jesson Kingdom was no exception. At the banquet, all of the experts of the Jesson Kingdom were giving toast to the 5 Imperial advisors with extremely respectful attitudes that reflected their attempts to curry favor with them. Although everyone was of the same tier of strength, their statuses were completely different and the power they wielded was just as different. These men were all well-known figures that could fight with any other same-ranking person easily. Their strengths were enough to defeat anyone a rank higher than them. Combined with the heaven-tier battle skills they each had, their military might was on a whole nother level which richly described their existence quite clearly. Honored imperial advisors, this king truly thanks the Qin Huang Kingdom for their assistance. If the Qin Huang Kingdom has any use for our lands, we shall do our best to provide it. Although our Jessan Kingdom is quite weak, we will work as hard as an oxen. The king spoke. The 5 imperial advisors gave a polite smile at his words, but none of them knew just what connection the imperial protector had with the Jessan Kingdom. They knew not which power he was friendly with, so they didn't dare offend anyone here. In the case they offended someone Jian Chen was friendly with, they would suffer the consequences for it. The 5 of them had followed Jian Chen from the Qin Huang Kingdom in hopes of improving their relationship with him. Not a single one of them had wanted that to all go to waste. At that moment, the headmaster of Kargath Academy, Kafir, spoke. Honored imperial advisors. This one has a question I wish to ask. When this one was at the northern stronghold, this one heard that your distinguished kingdom had an imperial protector that came to save us. Might this one ask just who that honored figure is? Or if the honored imperial advisors can speak just how he knows the Jessan Kingdom. Chapter 440. The strength of the Chongyang clan. At that moment, the headmaster of Kargath Academy, Kafir, spoke. Honored imperial advisors. This one has a question I wish to ask. When this one was at the northern stronghold, this one heard that your distinguished kingdom had an imperial protector that came to save us. Might this one ask just who that honored figure is? Or if the honored imperial advisors can speak just how he knows the Jessan Kingdom. Hearing the question, everyone seated at the table immediately looked to the gathered Qin Huang Kingdom's imperial advisors. Kafir had asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Each one of them knew that as an imperial advisor for the Qin Huang Kingdom, there should be no connection with the Jessan Kingdom. The 5 imperial advisors looked at each other as if to say something silently. They were all high-ranking members, so if it had been just any regular person inquiring about their imperial protector, they would have been extremely displeased. Earlier they hadn't dared reveal any discontent to the specific group in front of them, for fear of offending one of the groups their imperial protector was friends with. However, this was a good opportunity to find out more about their imperial protector. The 5 imperial protectors were silent for a moment before Xiao Tian spoke. Our imperial protector's name is Jian Chen. Might one of you recognize the name? At the name of Jian Chen, everyone revealed confused looks. They had never heard of such a name before. Seeing everyone's faces, the 5 imperial advisors all felt some confusion themselves. With their eyes, they could see that everyone was not familiar with such a name. This result had made them feel curious as well. Was there really a connection between the Jessan Kingdom and their imperial protector? In another splendid palace hall, there was a loud clamor as many armored men were eating with joy and laughing with each other. Not only were there high-ranking commanders, there were also many representatives of the major powers to the kingdom. Even 2 of the king's sons were seated there as they gave toasts. Among them, the most prominent-looking figure was a youth in white robes. The youth looked to be around 27 years old, and although he wasn't a part of the royal family, every single person within the halls was toasting him. Even the 2 princes were actively talking with the youth without any arrogance. If anyone who didn't know them had witnessed this sight, they would have assumed that the 3 of them were good friends. This youth was Ming Dong. He had originally been with the Chongyang clan at the western stronghold. Originally, he had planned on going back with the Chongyang clan after the war ended, but at the request of the king, he had found it hard to decline coming to participate in this feast. Jian Chen, it's been half a year since you should have left the Holy Lands. Tomorrow I'll head to the Chongyang clan and wait for your return. I don't doubt that we'll see each other soon, then. We'll leave for the Tianyuan continent and defeat our foes. Ming Dong thought to himself back to the days when he and Jian Chen were together. Not only did Ming Dong feel a brotherly camaraderie with Jian Chen, but he was also indebted to him. If it were not for Jian Chen saving his life way back before, he wouldn't have such power or Jian Chen's assistance now. If he hadn't met Jian Chen, he wouldn't have been able to go with Jian Chen to Mercenary City and meet his uncle Tian. If he had not met his uncle Tian, he would have never been able to walk the path toward the heavens. After the feast ended, Ming Dong was invited to stay at the imperial palace for the night. Ever since the imperial advisors from the Qin Huang Kingdom had found out there was no connection between the Jessan Kingdom and Jian Chen, they had lost any interest on staying here. So when the feast ended, they declined to stay and immediately left the imperial palace. When the 5 imperial advisors left, the experts of the Jesson kingdom had no desire to stay either and began to return home. Xiao Tian and the other 4 walked on the streets away from the palace for a while before Qing Xiaofan spoke. What should we do next? Where do we find the imperial protector? To Lore City. Xiao Tian spoke. Before he left, the imperial protector said that he would be staying in Lore City for a while. Let's go there. That works. However, I have a proposal. Since we don't get to do this often, why don't we go at our own pace? In any case, the war is over and it's unlikely anything bad will happen to the imperial protector, so let us go at our own pace. Tian Luo spoke. After the other 4 men agreed, one of them spoke, Tian Luo has a good idea. Since we are in no rush, we may as well take our time. Let us see the homeland where our imperial protector grew up and see just what environment this was to bring about such a genius. Lore City's Chongyang clan. The Hua Yun sect had already gathered outside the Chongyang clan's gates. Inside, several hundred soldiers were gathered by ready to fight. The leader of the Chongyang clan, Chongyang Ba, stood calmly in front of the crowd from the Hua Yun sect. Right behind him, several elders of the clan stood by with frosty glares toward their enemy. In front of them, the Hua Yun sect's patriarch Cheng Fei had a dozen men behind him as well. Their eyes were sharp like swords and they were all Earth Saint Masters, but the scars on their faces made them seem even more intimidating. Chongyang Ba, our Hua Yun sect does not wish to quarrel with you, but Chongyang Xiongtian cut off the arm of my child, which is a sin I cannot forgive. If you do not hand him over to the Hua Yun sect, my Hua Yun sect will be forced to make a move. I never would have guessed that at the final moment, I would suddenly grasp the concepts of the mysteries of the world and make the breakthrough to become a Heaven Saint Master. Even a dozen Earth Saint Masters working together weren't enough to pose a challenge for him. These elders were the strongest Earth Saint Masters the Chongyang clan had to offer, and if they were not enough, the Chongyang clan had no other immediate solution. Saya let out a cold smile as he regarded the dozen Earth Saint Masters. Without looking, he said, Ching Fei, call out some people to grab the man. If anyone stops them, spare them no mercy. Yes, Master. The patriarch spoke joyously before commanding several people to go search the manor. Within Chongyang Hu's room, Jian Chen's handsome face hardened as a large amount of killing intent radiated from his eyes. Just as he was about to move out of his mother's grasp, his face suddenly slackened and eased up. At that moment, before the men the Hua Yun sect had commanded could enter the manor, a loud whistling sound could be heard as a fiery figure came blazing toward them from the horizon. Even from far away, the amount of power it radiated was potent enough to scorch the clouds in the sky. Saya's face grew shocked as he hissed, "Not good, Chong Wuji is back." Chapter 442. Power. Saya's words caused the patriarch to look shocked as well. He had a deep fear of Chong Wuji since he knew that at the northern stronghold, Chong Wuji had used a heaven-tier battle skill to kill 2 Heaven Saint Masters. This, to him, was an incredibly shocking fact. Quickly, a cyan-robed man came descending from the sky to the ground, and landed in front of the Chongyang clan in opposition to the Hua Yun sect. Chong Bai, you finally returned. Chongyang Ba had a happy look to his face as he looked at the new elder. He was excited because Chong Bai was a Heaven Saint Master. Now that he had returned, they were able to defend the clan against Saya, and prevent the Hua Yun sect from being able to look through the manor as they pleased. Not only would his 4th child be saved, but their honor would remain safe as well. At the most crucial moment, Chong Bai suddenly returned to save Chongyang Ba by tossing him a rope to grab hold of. The heart that had leaped into his throat finally fell back down, and even the other Earth Saint Masters gave a sigh in relief. There was finally a Heaven Saint Master that could help them. Chong Wuji gave a hard look as he surveyed the broken courtyard around him and then to the pale white elders. Upon seeing their wounds, Chong Wuji's eyes gained a baleful aura as he spoke. "Leader, just what happened here?" Walking forward he spoke. "Chong Bai, yesterday, Xianger suddenly returned home. The Hua Yun sect somehow heard news of his return and came to capture him." "What? The 4th Master has returned home?" Chong Bai's face grew shocked. There had been no sign of Jian Chen for several years after he left. At one point, Chong Bai had even doubted that Jian Chen would ever come back. He didn't expect that after so long his fourth master would abruptly come back. This was something that he felt was extremely unexpected. Chongyangba nodded his head with a faint smile. Xiang'er suddenly came back from who knows where. After being lost for so long, he has returned safe and sound.
He's back, that's all that matters.
Chongbai's face lit up with happiness. Jian Chen had been a talented genius that Chongbai had huge expectations for. He had even looked after Jian Chen while growing up, so his feelings for him were rather deep. Chong Wuji stifled the happiness in his heart and glared at the Hua Yun sect with a dangerous look. With a furious voice he spoke, "Although the master isn't here, our Chongyang clan will not be so easily bullied. Hua Yun sect, remove yourself from my sight." With that, Chongbai's arms clenched the air, causing a wave of world energy to gather at an alarming rate. Then with a push outward, the energy flew toward the Hua Yun sect. Against such a strong blow, the men from the Hua Yun sect weren't able to defend themselves at all. Each one flew into the sky and fell outside the courtyards, but several Earth Saint Masters somehow managed to defend themselves. Even the newly advanced Heaven Saint Master Saya found it difficult to resist. Both of his feet dragged against the ground, leaving behind deep skid mark from his backward momentum. Chongbai's control of the world energy was exceedingly strong and fine-tuned. There hadn't been any form of damage to the surrounding area. He had already been in the Heaven Saint Master realm for many years, so his strength far outstripped that of Saya. Seeing that he was unable to defend against such a blow from Chong Wuji, Saya's face grew ugly while fear crept into his heart. Chong Wuji had been a secretive person and was not counted within the top 10 experts of the Jessen Kingdom. Only those of the Chongyang clan had known that Chongbai was a hidden expert. If it were not for the Four Kingdoms, his strength would have never been known to anyone outside of the clan. Chong Wuji's eyes fell upon Saya with a little surprise. "I believe you are called Saya? I didn't think that you would become a Heaven Saint Master, but because you've injured my Chongyang clan, don't blame me for being impolite. The honor of my Chongyang clan cannot be so easily trampled upon." With that, Chong Wuji's right hand clenched the air, causing all of the world energy around him to transform into fire, the strongest of the 6 elements in terms of offensive might. Chong Wuji's speed at gathering the fire elements was extremely fast. In an instant, he had formed a giant sword of fire that flew towards Saya. Blanching, Saya knew that as a recent Heaven Saint Master, he was not a match for Chong Wuji. Without hesitation, Saya instantly took out his saint weapon to attack the fire sword. Bang! A large wave of energy exploded outward after the initial collision, covering the entire area within its spread. At the same time, a faint red glow could be seen protecting the entire Chongyang clan. Even the walls to the manor were protected from the energy wave. Saya let out a mouthful of blood and quickly became pale before staggering back. Although he was a Heaven Saint Master, the difference between the two was far too much if he couldn't even handle a single blow. The disciples of the Hua Yun sect had been caught in the blast as well. When the wave of fire had engulfed them, several of the men had lost their lives while many others had barely escaped with their lives. However, they themselves were in a sorry position with their clothes burned completely away. In an instant, the previously winning Hua Yun sect fell into disarray from Chong Wuji's appearance. Chong Wuji's strength caused the entire Hua Yun sect to go quiet with dark expressions. Suddenly, 2 giant forces of power came flying forward from far away. As they approached, they slowly dropped down in front of the Chongyang manor. These 2 men looked to be 70-year-old elders with white robes and bright eyes. However, their faces were scrunched up in anger as they looked forward. However, the moment the Hua Yun sect's patriarch saw these 2 elders, he let out a look of joy and immediately knelt down. "I pay my respects to the grand elders." The entire group of disciples from the Hua Yun sect immediately followed suit and greeted the 2 elders. Their voices were extremely respectful and shook the sky. The 2 grand elders looked ahead of them for a moment before one of them spoke up. "Ching Fei, what is going on here?" After asking, the patriarch explained the entire story to the 2 elders. Upon listening, the 2 elders grew quiet for a moment. If it was in the past, the Hua Yun sect wouldn't allow for such treatment from the Chongyang clan, and would have beaten them all to death a long time ago. Now that Chong Wuji's strength had been revealed after the events at the northern stronghold, the 2 elders were secretly afraid of him and didn't dare belittle the Chongyang clan. To be able to kill 2 Heaven Saint Masters wasn't the work any regular person could do. Chong Wuji even had a heaven-tier battle skill which placed heavy pressure on the two Grand Elders. One of the Grand Elders looked to Chong Wuji wearily. Chong Wuji, with one move you've killed a dozen of my Hua Yun sect. You are being too fierce. Chong Wuji let out a snort. Your Hua Yun sect has caused such a mess within my Chongyang clan and injured a dozen of our clan's strongest. How should such a debt be repaid? Chong Wuji took a step forward with a head held high for the two experts, ready to fight if need be. The two Grand Elders from the Hua Yun sect were taken back for a moment, but they did not shirk away. One of the two immediately explained, I've heard of the matter from those years ago. The fault lies with Chongyang Xiangtian. He cut off the arm of our patriarch's son, Chang Mingxiang. If we tally things up, it is the fault of your Chongyang clan. Our Hua Yun sect only wishes to do things right. You jest. The matter had already been investigated into. Everything was because of the instigation your Chang Mingxiang caused with our fourth master. If there's anyone to blame, blame Chang Mingxiang. A middle great saint having his arm cut off by a primary saint is too laughable. Chong Wuji spoke without holding back. Her heart began to slow down from all the shock while Jian Chen's aunts Yu Fengyan and Ling Long also let out breaths in relief. I pay my respects to Chong Bai. Jian Chen cupped his hands and bowed to him. Seeing the thunderstruck look on his face, Jian Chen couldn't help but reveal a devilish smile. Jian Chen's voice caused Chong Bai to snap out of his silence and he began to stutter. Why? You? Are you? Really? The fourth master? Seeing the familiar face, Chong Bai couldn't help but think back to the time where he had gone to the Pingyang Kingdom's stronghold, where he met a mysterious youth that had battled with 5 Heaven Saint Masters before personally killing 4 of them. He had even caused the expert from the Chengon Kingdom to lose an arm before that expert had fled. The appearance of that youth was the exact same one as the one in front of him. Chongyang Ba heard the voice of Chong Bai feel a little off and turned to give him a strange look. Upon seeing Chong Bai's face, he couldn't help but feel curious just what made Chong Bai lose his manner so suddenly. Chong Bai, what's wrong? Chongyang Ba asked with concern. He couldn't figure out just what was wrong with Chong Bai. Jian Chen's mother Bai Yuntian and his 2 aunts gave a similar look of confusion. Chong Bai's sudden loss of composure was extremely strange to them. This was the very first time they had ever seen such an expression on him. Jian Chen still had a faint smile on his face as he nodded. Chong Bai, I truly am Xiangtian. Could it be that you cannot recognize me? And no. That's not possible. Chong Bai still looked stunned as he looked at Jian Chen. The mysterious youth that had killed 4 Heaven Saint Masters was his 4th master. Chongyang Xiangtian? This was exceedingly hard to believe because when the 4th master was 15, he was only a primary saint. It had only been 5 to 6 years since his departure, so Chongyang Xiangtian becoming a Heaven Saint Master was utterly inconceivable. Chong Bai, what are you saying? Chongyang Ba asked once more. Chongyang Ba was completely unable to make any sense of the situation at hand. Chong Bai let out a deep breath to calm down. No longer as surprised, he slowly spoke. Clan leader, do you remember when we were at the northern stronghold? I told you a mysterious expert had killed and cut off the heads of 4 Heaven Saint Masters from the Pingyang Kingdom? Chongyang Ba nodded, but did not say anything and waited for Chong Bai to continue. Chong Bai went silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice shook. That mysterious expert, it was the 4th master. What? Chongyang Ba revealed a surprised look on his face. He didn't believe his ears and asked once more. Chong Bai, what did you just say? At the Pingyang Kingdom, the expert that killed and cut off the heads of the 4 Heaven Saint Masters was the 4th master. Chong Bai spoke once more. He had repeated it slowly and allowed everyone to hear what he said clearly. Chong Bai's words caused the entire room to go silent. Everyone could only look at Jian Chen. Even Chongyang who was on the bed looked at Jian Chen in utter shock. Bai Yuntian was the first to snap out of her shock and smiled. Chong Bai, you must be mistaken. Xiangtian is only 21 years old. How could he be that strong? Chongyang Ba looked to Jian Chen and asked with a shaking voice. Xiang'er, is what Chong Bai says true? Did you kill the 4 Heaven Saint Masters from the Pingyang Kingdom? Chongyang Ba was eagerly awaiting a response. He didn't dare believe his son was that strong, but he couldn't help but ask. Chong Bai was not a man that would speak without thinking first. Jian Chen nodded. Chong Bai is correct. Father, The 4 heaven saint masters from the Pingyang kingdom were killed by me. Every single person within the room was stunned by Jane Chen's words. A youth that was only 21 years old was able to kill a heaven saint master. That was a shocking piece of news. How is that possible, Xiang'er? You left the Chongyang clan when you were 15 years old and a primary saint. It has been only 6 years. How could you become so strong? Bai Yuntian was astonished. Her eyes were wide open. Xiangtian, just how or what way were you able to kill an enemy heaven saint master? Yu Fengyan spoke with surprise. Xiang'er, just how strong have you become? I can't even seem to tell. Chongyang Ba's voice shook with unrestrainable emotion. He was extremely overjoyed and simply could not use words to describe such joy. Jian Chen went silent for a mother before speaking. Father, mother, because of a chance of luck, my path of cultivation changed drastically. I've already completely separated myself from the class system of the Tian Yuan continent. My strength is most likely at the Heaven Saint Master rank since I'm already able to control the world energy. When it came to his own strength, Jian Chen didn't know how to accurately classify himself. He was able to kill a Heaven Saint Master with the origin energy of the Azure and Violet Sword spirits. With that energy, even a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master was not someone to fear. If he were to lose the origin energy, it would take a considerable amount of energy to use his ability to control anything to kill a Heaven Saint Master. A Heaven Saint Master. A Heaven Saint Master. Xiang'er, are you really a Heaven Saint Master? Bai Yuntian spoke joyously. Her entire body began to shake with joy. There was no way she wouldn't be happy, since her son was a Heaven Saint Master. Jian Chen's 2 other aunts let out flabbergasted expressions as they looked at Jian Chen. Good. Very good. You are truly my son and offspring of our Chongyang clan. Xiang'er, the strength you wield today is something your dear father is very gratified to see. We, the Chongyang clan, are proud of you. Chongyang Ba boomed with laughter. Although our Jessen kingdom has many rich lands, it isn't enough to provoke the Qin Huang kingdom's interest. Furthermore, the distance between our kingdoms is far too wide for it to matter. The king of the Jessen kingdom pondered curiously. These were questions he had spent many hours thinking about, but he had not arrived at an answer yet. Kafir shook his head. The name of Jian Chen is not one I recognize. I too am puzzled on just why the Qin Huang kingdom would provide assistance to our kingdom. For them to come from such a distant kingdom, there has to be some sort of connection between their imperial protector and our Jessen kingdom. The king's eyes narrowed together with a bright glow visible. Kafir, do you think it has to do with Patriarch Chongyang? Kafir's eyes lit up with a bright gleam at the question. At the same time, a guard from outside came running in before kneeling before the two. Your Majesty, I come bearing an urgent report from Lore City. Upon hearing that there was news from Lore City, the king commanded, hand it over. The guard immediately walked toward the king and respectfully placed the message into the king's hands. Unraveling the message, the king read the message before exclaiming in shock, he was still alive? Kafir's body stiffened as he spoke in astonishment. Did Patriarch Chongyang return? If he has, then this matter with the Qin Huang kingdom is all but over. The king shook his head before handing the message to Kafir. Reading the contents of the message, Kafir displayed a look of shock on his face as well. Chongyang Xiangtian? I had no idea that he was alive or had even come back. When he left, it was without a trace. Even the Chongyang clan couldn't find any trace of him when they searched for him. I had thought that he died already, but for him to return, that is quite shocking. The king had a smile on his face as he spoke. That Chongyang Xiangtian's return is really quite timely now that Chong Wuji's strength has been revealed. If it were not for the matter at the northern stronghold, we would have never known how strong Chong Wuji is. Even the Hua Yun sect won't dare go against the Chongyang clan. Chongyang Xiangtian is safe for now. Kafir nodded his head before thinking back to a few years ago at Kargath Academy when the energy of the world flew around Jian Chen with an explosive force when he became a saint. Chongyang Xiangtian was no ordinary genius. Given time, he will pass any limits placed on him and will surely be stronger. One of the maids came rushing forward with a slight bow as she spoke. Your Majesty, the envoys from the Blue Wind Kingdom, the Andreas Kingdom, the Hidden Dragon Kingdom, and the Pingyang Kingdom have all gathered within the Imperial Palace and are waiting to be received. I understand you may go. The king waved his hand.
Yes, Your Majesty.
The maid withdrew back into the palace. The might of the Qinhong kingdom is truly massive. Those 4 kingdoms were frightened straight away. Kafir, I'll be leaving first to see what those 4 envoys want to do to compensate. Coming from within the Chongyang Manor, the 4th master's return quickly spread through Lore City. Even the other 3 major clans within the city heard the news, and the leaders of each clan immediately came by bearing congratulatory gifts. Although the Chongyang clan was only one of the 4 strongest clans in Lore City, every single person knew that the Chongyang clan was the most revered within the city. This was because they had been here before Lore City was even founded, while the other 3 clans came later. Since the Chongyang clan was secretive by nature, the common masses had always thought the 4 clans were on equal footing. Chongyang Ba personally greeted the 3 clan leaders, and Chongbai received them into the hall, much to the honor of the 3 leaders. Although Chongbai was a heaven saint master, he did not exude the arrogance that was commonly seen with one. He was the greatest example of what a loyal housekeeper was, by doing what he was told to do. Even in front of Chongyang Ba, he always referred to himself as a servant. The 3 leaders' main purpose for coming to the manor was hopes of arranging a marriage between one of their daughters to the Chongyang clan's 4th master. When Chongyang Ba informed them that his 4th child had already been engaged to Princess Golan, they all revealed disappointed looks on their faces. After staying for a little longer, they spoke several words and left. That afternoon, Jian Chen walked out of Chongyang Manor into the streets. He was headed to where Shen Fong and Sans were staying. After taking the 2 out of the inn they were in, he headed back to the Chongyang clan. We pay our respects to the 4th master. The guards at the gates immediately spoke to Jian Chen. By now, everyone recognized just who Jian Chen was. Jian Chen nodded his head and brought Shen Fong and Sans into the courtyards. Calling for 2 maids, he had them brought to Chongbai. Asking him to make preparations for the 2, Jian Chen had spoke of the relationship between him and the 2. When Chongbai heard about how her husband had lost his life to save Jian Chen's, Chongbai's face had grown extremely serious. Saying that he would personally take care of the preparations, he reported the matter to Jian Chen's mother, Bai Yun Tian. When Jian Chen's parents heard about the connection between Jian Chen, Shen Fong, and Sans, they immediately stopped their tasks at hand and went to pamper them graciously without caring for the social gap between them. And so, Shen Fong and Sans started to live at Chongyang Manor for the meanwhile. However, the news that Kendall had died had not been disclosed to Shen Fong and her son. Jian Chen and Chongbai slowly walked through the courtyards before Jian Chen asked out of the blue, "Chongbai, is there a method for a shattered saint weapon to be reformed?" Chongbai shook his head. "There is none to my knowledge." "Could this be for Ken Shaosen?" Jian Chen sighed. "Ken Shaosen was hurt because of me. If I do not resolve this matter, I will not be able to rest easily." Chongbai went silent for a moment. "4th master, the Tian Yuan continent has all sorts of strange and magical items. Our current knowledge is merely the tip of the iceberg. Although we don't know of any method to repair the shattered saint weapon of a person, it does not mean there is no proof that it cannot be done." Jian Chen went silent for a moment. If he could not heal Sans, he would never be able to forgive himself. Sans was the son of Kendall and had been still hurt because of him. "Chongbai, I am going to leave for a moment. I must resolve the matter with the Hua Yun sect," Jian Chen declared. His voice was calm and no hint of emotion could be discerned. Chapter 445. Killing the Hua Yun sect, 2. 4th master, if you do that, your strength would be revealed. Although it would be a glorious moment for the clan, this servant worries about the troubles that might fall upon your head. Chongbai spoke with concern. "Chongbai, this isn't a problem you should worry about. I will take care of everything." Jian Chen spoke calmly without an ounce of worry for himself. Seeing the resolute look on Jian Chen's face, Chongbai knew that there was no convincing him. To put off his own worries, Chongbai spoke. "4th master, please allow this old man to accompany you then." Shaking his head, Jian Chen replied, "Chongbai, the Hua Yun sect is something I need to take care of myself. I know my own strength, I alone will be enough." Upon hearing Jian Chen's words, Chongbai couldn't help but think back to when they were both at the stronghold of the Pingyang kingdom. With a small smile he spoke. "The 4th master is already an expert that can defend himself. If the 4th master wishes to go by himself, then this old servant won't meddle anymore." Chong Bai, I will trouble you with my mother and father. I will be back soon. As he spoke about his parents, Jian Chen's eyes couldn't help but soften slightly. The fourth lady and clan leader will be reassured by me. Fourth master, head out early and come back early. Jian Chen nodded his head and began to control the world energy to cover his body. With the wind element surrounding him, Jian Chen instantly blew away into the sky in a blur of cyan. In an instant, he disappeared behind the clouds in the sky. Seeing Jian Chen disappear, Chong Bai's face revealed an astonished look. Strange, back at the Pingyang Kingdom's borders, I could have sworn that I saw the fourth master using the fire element. Now, he's using the wind element. Could it be that the fourth master is able to control both elements? Chong Bai looked back to the boundless sky and let out a drawn-out sigh. Muttering to himself, he said, "The fourth master has already surpassed all of my expectations. It seems that not after long, the Chongyang clan will join the ranks of the strongest clans because of the fourth master. AI, who knows when the master will return? If he knew that the Chongyang clan had such an outstanding child, who knows how happy he would be." Afterward, Chong Bai left to look for Chongyang Ba and tell him the news. After receiving the information, Chongyang Ba's eyebrows scrunched together as he spoke with worry. "Chong Bai, will there be any problem with Xiong'er going by himself?" Chong Bai shook his head. "Unlikely. When I first witnessed his strength, 4 of the Heaven Saint Masters from the Pingyang Kingdom and Qian Yun from the Qiangon Kingdom had been unable to even touch the fourth master. The Hua Yun sect stands no chance. Then who knows how Xiong'er will decide on how to deal with the Hua Yun sect. If what you say is true, Xiong'er already possesses the strength to easily destroy the entire Hua Yun sect. Many years ago, the fact that the Hua Yun sect had forced Xiong'er to flee his home surely must have left a deep grudge within his heart. Do you think Xiong'er will act upon such a drastic action and destroy the Hua Yun sect? Chongyang Ba's eyebrows scrunched together in concern. Hearing this, Chong Bai was stunned for a moment before growing shocked. Alas! I hadn't thought of such a thing at that moment. With the fourth master's strength, he could truly destroy the Hua Yun sect. With the war our kingdom has just experienced, our kingdom lacks power. We even lost 3 Heaven Saint Masters from the battle, depleting our forces by a large amount. If the Hua Yun sect were to be destroyed by the fourth master, our kingdom will fall into a period of weakness that would take 100 years to recover from. You speak correctly. If Xiong'er truly kills off every expert from the Hua Yun sect, there won't be anything left to do. Our Jesson kingdom has already lost too many Heaven Saint Masters. Chongyang Ba had a serious look to his face. Whether the Jesson kingdom would be able to recover or not depended on the support of Heaven Saint Masters. They were the symbols of strength for a kingdom. Losing them would bring about a giant loss for the entire kingdom. Furthermore, the patriarch of the Hua Yun sect was the minister of the Jesson kingdom. With such an achievement, his status was extremely high. If the Chongyang clan were to destroy the Hua Yun sect, then it would not be an easily forgivable act. 1,000 meters in the air, Jian Chen flew in between the clouds, allowing them to hide his body from below. This time, he was not carrying the tiger cub and had fed it yesterday night with several heavenly resources, causing it to sleep. With the current digestion rate of the tiger cub, it would take 2 or 3 days before it would wake up again. The Hua Yun sect was about 4,000 kilometers away from Lore City and resided upon the most famous mountain in Jesson Kingdom, Tianhua Mountains. The Hua Yun sect held a decisive amount of power within the Jesson Kingdom and was the strongest aside from the imperial family. Now that they had a new Heaven Saint Master, the Hua Yun sect was now the uncontested power within the Jesson Kingdom and could even control the imperial family. The Hua Yun sect had resided within the Jesson Kingdom for hundreds of years, back when the kingdom had just barely been established alongside the Chongyang clan. At that time, the founding patriarch of the Hua Yun sect, the patriarch of the Chongyang clan, and the very first headmaster of Kargath Academy had been called the ministers of the Jesson Kingdom. After over 4 hours of flying, Jian Chen finally arrived at Tianhua Mountains before walking the rest of the way there. The Hua Yun sect that were walking on horseback had only just arrived back home. Therefore everyone was rushing to bring their items from the horses back inside the monastery. Right in front of the gates were a dozen soldiers standing guard. They were clearly the ones responsible for the gates. With his head held high, Jian Chen strode for the mountain gates of the Hua Yun sect. Just as he reached a 30 meters distance, 2 of the disciples instantly blocked his path and spoke arrogantly. Who are you and what is your purpose with the Huayun sect? Saga's advancement into the Heaven Saint Master Realm had already made news around the sect. This meant the Huayun sect now had 3 Heaven Saint Masters, making them the strongest faction of power within the entire Jessan Kingdom. With such a title, the normal disciples of the Huayun sect felt utterly prideful, looking down on almost everyone. Jian Chen's eyes suddenly turned cold as he swiped at the sky. All of the energy in the world suddenly began to gather in front of Jian Chen's palm before he pushed it forward, pushing the world energy toward the disciples standing guard. As soon as the disciples were blown away, the door they had been protecting suddenly pushed apart from the world energy, allowing Jian Chen entry. Chapter 446. Killing the Huayun Sect, 3. The sudden bang that accompanied the door's opening startled all of the nearby disciples. Many of them threw down their items and quickly ran to gather at the gates. Jian Chen strode past the collapsed gates and continued to walk deep within the sect without any signs of stopping. Swiping with both hands, the world energy continued to gather around his hands before quickly forming 2 giant blades of fire that flew toward the nearest hallway. Bang! A loud echo could be heard as the flames licked at the halls, collapsing the entire structure before being charred black. The Huayun sect was built using granite, a flame-resistant material. Thus, it would not burn too easily. Originally, Jian Chen planned on destroying the Huayun sect like the Yongji sect, but the granite buildings forced him to give up on that idea. This type of development frightened the entire Huayun sect. The flames that filled the sky was extremely dazzling and reflected red upon the entire place, attracting everyone's attention. Many more disciples from the sect began to gather along with the higher echelons of the sect who leaped over roofs to arrive. Not too long after, 200 uniformed men gathered near the gates, surrounding Jian Chen completely. Youngster, who are you? Did you wish to die by attacking our Huayun sect? To dare harm our Huayun sect like this, our sect will not forgive you for this. The 200 disciples began to curse at Jian Chen angrily with eyes that could shoot fire. Jian Chen had destroyed their gates, an act similar to slapping the face of the entire Huayun sect. This to the disciples was far more than enough to warrant their killing intent. Right now the Huayun sect had 3 Heaven Saint Master experts. Within the Jessan Kingdom, this was an unmatched power. 3 Heaven Saint Masters was an honor that made even the regular disciples of the sect feel extremely proud, which caused their eyes to shine brightly and they had begun to look down on everyone. Second teacher has arrived, let him through. Suddenly, a large voice called out, causing the entire group of disciples to suddenly split into 2 to form a road.
A middle-aged man wearing an embroidered robe came striding forward proudly as a light from his eyes like the shine of a sword as he stared at Jian Chen.
Sire, who are you and what reason have you to attack our Huayun sect? Without a good reason, then no matter who you are, do not expect to leave this place after today. The man spoke. Hearing this, Jian Chen's eyes grow colder as he spoke. The Huayun sect has gotten even more arrogant than I thought.
It doesn't matter who I am to you. Even if I were the prince of the kingdom, you would have me locked up here.
The middle-aged man's face twisted with fury. Impudence.
Spare me of your glib.
I have seen both royal princes of the imperial family. Who are you? Speak your identity or else do not blame our Huayun sect for being impolite. Impolite? I wanted to see just how impolite you could get. Let me see if you can act on your own words. Jian Chen laughed as the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. The middle-aged man could only sneer. There were 3 Heaven Saint Masters within the Huayun sect, making them rise higher in the hierarchy of the Jessan Kingdom. No one could match their might, so they refused to place the youth in front of them as anyone important.
With a wave of his hand, the man spoke. Arrest him.
If he resists, then do not hold back. Yes. The man obviously held some sort of authority, since every single disciple let out a yell of approval. A dozen disciples had already formed their saint weapons to charge at him and fight. Jian Chen slowly folded his hands across his chest and stood there without moving a muscle. When the disciples had gotten within a 10-meter range, the sand on the ground immediately floated into the air. Carrying an azure and violet light to them, they instantly scattered in every direction. Ah! Straight away, the sounds of pain could be heard as the previously high and mighty disciples of the Huayun sect fell to the ground one by one in pain. Their bodies had been shot through with several holes perforating their entire body. Blood continued to flow down their bodies, dyeing their uniforms red. Some had been severely injured, some had not, and some had been so injured that they died on the spot. The one called the second teacher immediately grew shocked as he looked at the 21-year-old youth in front of him. At this moment, he no longer dared belittle the youth.
"Who are you?" The man spoke with some lingering fear in his voice.
"What is going on?" At that moment, a deep voice could be heard from behind as the Hua Yun sect's patriarch Xueqi came walking out. Right behind him was another group of disciples.
"I pay my respects to the patriarch." The man immediately bowed to the patriarch before explaining. "Patriarch, this youth right here is of unknown origin.
He came to attack our Hua Yun sect with no reason and even destroyed our gates and halls. He also injured several disciples." Seeing the destroyed mountain gates, Xueqi's face had a dark look to it. The Hua Yun sect still had some pent-up anger from the Chongyang clan yesterday and had returned to the sect with resentment. For today to have someone causing trouble and destroying the gates, this was simply another thrashing to the Hua Yun sect's honor. "Who are you and for what reason are you causing trouble at my Hua Yun sect?" Xueqi spoke, his eyes gleaming dangerously. "Patriarch of the Hua Yun sect, have you forgotten me after all these years? Just yesterday, you came to my home and tried to bully me once more." Jian Chen's biting cold eyes stared at Xueqi. Several of the experts hurriedly put up their saint weapons, but 3 of them had been far too late. The sword qi pierced the space between their eyebrows and instantly killed them. As they fell to the ground, their eyes remained wide open in death. Seeing such a spectacle, the elder who was originally watching in amusement instantly grew shocked. "Assist them!" he cried to the ones who had first charged at Jian Chen. The remaining fighters who had been watching with their arms crossed pulled out their saint weapons as well and followed the elder to charge at Jian Chen. The patriarch Xueqi revealed a thunderstruck look as he glared at Jian Chen. How is this possible? Chongyang Xiangtian is only 21 years old. How could he suddenly become this strong? Even if he is a genius among geniuses, breaking through to the Earth Saint Master realm is far too miraculous. This isn't a strength he should be wielding. Chapter 447. 2 choices. After the shock subsided, the patriarch of the Hua Yun sect grew a little dark in the face as his eyes flashed indefinitely. Chong Wuji from the Chongyang clan had already placed an incredible amount of pressure on the Hua Yun sect. Not only were they still pressured even after having 3 Heaven Saint Masters, but now they had some sort of talented child. This situation couldn't help but make Xueqi feel concerned. Chongyang Xiangtian is 21 years old today, but he has the strength of an Earth Saint Master. An Earth Saint Master at the peak of breaking through, it seems. If a person like this grows up, our Hua Yun sect would be crushed underneath the feet of the Chongyang clan. Xueqi thought to himself with a fierce expression. Immediately taking out a jade of the motherly twins from his space ring, Xueqi crushed it, notifying the Grand Elder hidden within the mountain. Within the deep belly of the mountain behind the Hua Yun sect, 3 Heaven Saint Masters were gathered there. 2 of the Grand Elders were taking turn imparting their knowledge to the newly broken through Saga. Suddenly, one of the Grand Elders pulled out a small jade piece only for him to see it suddenly split in 2. Seeing the jade break apart, the other Grand Elder and Saga both grew extremely serious. They knew what it meant when jade stone broke. It seems that something is happening within the Hua Yun sect. Stay here and continue to teach Saga. I'll go see what has happened. The Grand Elder spoke. The other Grand Elder stood up from his stool. I'm sure that something important has happened. Otherwise, Xueqi would not have broken the jade of the motherly twins. Why don't the 3 of us go over to see what has happened? Afterward, the 3 Heaven Saint Masters left the mountains and flew toward the sect. Right at the front gates, several loud echoes could be heard as another dozen Earth Saint Masters were sent flying. They flew away from Jian Chen, blood spurting from their mouths. Slamming into the nearby buildings, they flew through the walls, creating holes. Are you truly Chongyang Xiangtian? The patriarch of the Hua Yun sect looked at Jian Chen with a pale face. His heart couldn't bear to accept the sight right in front of him. Dozens of Earth Saint Masters had been defeated by Chongyang Xiangtian's hands, making Xueqi feel as if the power he had just witnessed was actually a figment of his imagination. He simply couldn't believe it, and began to doubt the identity of the person in front of him. Was he truly the same Chongyang Xiangtian who had almost the same strength as his Chengming Xiang years ago? With stones crumbling around them, The dozen men who had been knocked straight through the building stood back up with pale faces. Standing by Cheng Fei's side, the Earth Saint Masters all looked at Jian Chen with surprised looks. They were just as shocked as Cheng Fei was at his strength. Patriarch Cheng, I, Chongyang Shengtian, stand here today. Show me what power your Hua Yun sect has here today. Show me what you can do. Jian Chen spoke. Chongyang Shengtian, you savage. Our Hua Yun sect isn't a place where you can behave atrociously.
Wait until the Grand Elder comes. We'll see then if you'll be able to move as you please then.
An Earth Saint Master by Cheng Fei's side spoke. Just as he finished speaking, 3 large powerful auras came flying by from behind the Hua Yun sect. 3 white-robed men quickly appeared in sight before slowly descending toward the Hua Yun sect. Seeing the 3 Heaven Saint Masters, every single disciple immediately knelt down and cried out, "We pay our respects to the Grand Elders." The layered voices of the disciples was extremely loud and could be heard throughout the Tianhua Mountains.
Who are you?
Saya's eyes stared dangerously at Jian Chen with an equally dangerous expression, ignoring the disciples. The other 2 Grand Elders didn't speak a word and instead looked around at the destroyed buildings of the nearby area. With each scene of destruction, their expressions turned more serious.
The both of them had been Heaven Saint Masters for a very long time, and they could tell that the energy used in these attacks had been comprised of the fire element.
Being able to control the world energy was a magical feat that only a Heaven Saint Master was capable of doing. Honored Grand Elders and Master, he is the one that cut off the arm of my son, Chongyang Shengtian. The Patriarch Cheng Fei spoke with gnashed teeth. Now that the 3 Heaven Saint Masters were here, he was filled with confidence and no longer feared Jian Chen. Upon Cheng Fei's words, the 3 Heaven Saint Masters' eyes lit up with a bright gleam as they looked at Jian Chen. Saya immediately lost his calm. Chongyang Shengtian, you have guts. The heavens have left you a road that you ignored. So walk the road to hell without anyone barring your path. Since you've come here to our Hua Yun sect today, don't expect to leave. Saya held a deep hatred for Jian Chen within his heart. It was because of Jian Chen that he had to go against Chong Wuji, who caused him to lose face in front of so many disciples. This had caused him to brood for many hours.
Saya, stay your mouth. Another of the Grand Elders suddenly spoke with a strict tone. Saya immediately stopped speaking at the Grand Elder's command. Although the 3 of them were Heaven Saint Masters, the 2 Grand Elders were extremely high in power, and even he did not dare defy the 2.
One of the Grand Elders looked at Jian Chen with a complex look before asking for confirmation. Are you truly the 4th Master of the Chongyang clan, Chongyang Shengtian? Correct. I am Chongyang Shengtian. Jian Chen spoke. After this confirmation, the 2 Grand Elders looked at each other in amazement. This led to him being very busy, and with the 2 envoys from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, it was compulsory that he went to greet them personally. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was definitely not a kingdom the Jesson Kingdom could afford to anger. The Prime Minister from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom began to speak with the King of the Jesson Kingdom while the Prince sat by the Prime Minister's side without speaking. The Prime Minister spoke in a roundabout way, trying to understand the situation between the Jesson Kingdom and the Qin Huang Kingdom. At the same time, they were trying to find out the reason why the Qin Huang Kingdom would help the Jesson Kingdom against the other 4 kingdoms. The King of the Jesson Kingdom had already devised an answer for such a topic that would put the Jesson Kingdom in the most advantageous position and emphasize the Imperial Protector's status. Right now the Jesson Kingdom's relationship with the Qin Huang Kingdom was something even he wasn't too familiar with, but he had no desire to anger the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom either. Upon hearing that the Jesson King had an Imperial Protector helping his kingdom, the Prime Minister and the Prince from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom grew solemn. Speaking several more words to the king, they switched topics to the second task given to the Prime Minister by his own king. Your Royal Highness, I've heard Princess Golan is already 20 years old and is still not yet married. Our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom hopes that our 2 kingdoms will become allies for many generations. So this servant has come here today to propose a marriage. Our kingdom hopes that the Princess Jelen will be wedded to our Heavenly Kingdom's 2nd prince. The Prime Minister spoke with a faint smile. Hearing this, the Jesson Kingdom's king had an embarrassed look on his face. Several years ago, He had engaged Princess Jelen to the fourth master of the Chongyang clan, Chongyang Xiangtian. This was done in hopes that an expert would be linked to the imperial family, and also because Kafir had constantly praised him for his talent. If Chongyang Xiangtian were to die in those years when he was gone, the wedding would naturally be cancelled and the king would find another candidate for the princess' hand in marriage. 2 days ago, he had heard that Chongyang Xiangtian had returned back home. Since things had progressed like this, he would naturally not break the engagement first and honor it. The Chongyang clan of now was far different than the one before. With Chan Wuji revealing his strength, the Chongyang clan had risen in power. Even the imperial palace wouldn't dare offend them easily. Most importantly, the king of the Joseon kingdom couldn't help but be skeptical of the reason why the Qin Huang kingdom was so willing to help the Joseon kingdom. He had thought that it was because of the Chongyang clan. It was very possible the mysteriously vanished ancestor of the Chongyang clan had been responsible for this, so the king of the Joseon kingdom didn't dare neglect the Chongyang clan. After thinking for a moment, the king of the Joseon kingdom replied, "Prime Minister Che, Yuera is my only precious daughter. I cannot so easily discuss this without speaking to her and seeing what she wishes for." "That is of no problem. His Majesty is a good father. This official truly admires such a trait." Prime Minister Che didn't rush the decision and smiled. Even the Prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom did not show any dissatisfaction on his face and was extremely calm. After several more words, the two envoys from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom left to rest. As soon as they left, the king of the Joseon kingdom let out a long sigh before closing his eyes and rubbing his temples. Being united with the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom through marriage was something that would make the king's heart pound. If they were to do this, the Joseon kingdom would surely benefit from such a contract and would be vital in the development of the entire kingdom. If there is no connection between the Qin Huang kingdom and ancestor Chongyang, what should I do? Do I anger the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and honor the marriage with Chongyang Xiangtian, or do I anger the Chongyang clan for the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom? The king muttered to himself. In his position as king, he naturally had to put the kingdom's development first and foremost. Although he loved his daughter dearly, but even he could not move about freely. Although he knew Chongyang Xiangtian of the Chongyang clan was no ordinary genius, in his heart, he knew that Chongyang Xiangtian's growth would take a very long time. At the very least it would take 10 years, at the very most it would take well over 100 years. This was a time span that he couldn't wait for. The king of the Joseon kingdom wasn't sure why the Qin Huang kingdom had helped them, but if it was because of some senior having a friendship with the imperial protector of the Qin Huang kingdom, it did not guarantee a second time of assistance. He had to bring his Joseon kingdom onto the more definite path. At the peak of the Tianhua Mountains, the winds blew with an ear-piercing whistle as if demons were screaming. A short distance away from the Hua Yun sect, the white-robed Jian Chen stood in the sky and faced off against 3 others. "It is no wonder you were so arrogant. You were a heaven saint master." Saya spoke with a dark expression of jealousy. Jian Chen ignored Saya completely. Saya had only just entered the Heaven Saint Master realm and so his strength had not yet stabilized. Furthermore, a first-cycle Heaven Saint Master was a very lowly existence to them. Jian Chen paid attention to the 2 Grand Elders. "Make your move, but don't say I didn't warn you. If you do not go all out, you will lose very miserably." The 2 Grand Elders weren't angered by his words, but their faces darkened slightly. They were aware of Jian Chen's speed with the wind element and the fact that his control over the world energy was stronger than theirs. Giving a mutual glance to each other, the 2 Grand Elders knew what each other was thinking. Immediately taking out identical-looking saint weapons, they shot 2 rays of sword chi toward Jian Chen. Saya hadn't slacked off in speed either. Forming a great sword in his hands, he quickly flew toward Jian Chen. He had full confidence that with the 2 Grand Elders attacking at the same time, Jian Chen would stand no chance by himself. Jian Chen's hands swiped at the sky, causing all of the fire elements in the world to gather at unbelievable speeds. In an instant, 3 blades made of fire materialized in midair and shot toward the 3. Bang! After a loud explosion, flames began to spread throughout the area and illuminated the skies. The intense energy engulfed the clouds completely. Afterward, the skies cleared up to show a plain blue sight. The 2 sword chi had been broken apart by the blow while Saya had been forced back. However, with the saint force covering his body, it provided a form of protection against the plumes of fire. Jian Chen's body flickered for a moment before flying towards Saya with the help of the wind element. His right hand opened up to form an open palm before collecting all the fire elements to form a giant ball of the element. In a battle like this, you have no right to participate. Remove yourself. Jian Chen spoke icily before shooting out with a lightning-fast palm. As soon as the palm drew close to Saya's chest, the energy within the palm exploded abruptly. The energy shattered Saya's defenses and slammed into his chest fiercely. PFC. Saya spat out a mouthful of blood before turning pale in the face. Losing control of his body, he fell back down to the earth like a kite with its string cut. He was only just a man who had recently become a Heaven Saint Master. His strength was still at its lowest, and even just flying was something unfamiliar to him. So against Jian Chen, who had a countless amount of experience fighting against other Heaven Saint Masters, Saya stood no chance. Chapter 449, Battle at Mount Tianhua, 2. Seeing how Saya had been defeated, the two Grand Elders looked startled for a moment before once more re-evaluating Jian Chen. Who would have known a youth like him would possess a strength that is no less than mine? How inconceivable. Both Grand Elders thought to themselves, but their hands didn't stop moving and quickly brought their saint weapons down toward Jian Chen, possibly to prevent him from injuring Saya anymore. Jian Chen's eyes burst with an azure and violet glow, causing several trees down below to explode into a storm of splinters that shot upward as if attracted to the two Grand Elders. While this was happening, the two Grand Elders both looked at it with astonishment before covering their bodies with saint force. At this moment, Saya finally regained control of his body and brought the world energy around him once more, suspending his body in midair. His face grew dark as he looked at Jian Chen, but in his mind, he couldn't help but think to what Jian Chen had said to him. In a battle like this, you have no right to participate. Remove yourself. At this very moment, Saya was feeling extremely humiliated. It was clear to see that Jian Chen saw him as an annoyance, and for a person who had just become a high-level expert within the continent, this was a huge blow to the Heaven Saint Master Saya. With just a single blow, he had lost to the hands of a 21-year-old. Changyang Xiangtian. As he floated in midair, Saya's face contorted with a venomous look as he spat out Changyang Xiangtian's name as if burning the name into his memory. Higher up in the sky, the two Grand Elders didn't dare ignore the countless swarm of splinters. Their saint force surged out in the form of a protective layering over their bodies. This was the only way they would be able to endure and resist the splinters' attacks. As the splinters slammed into the two Grand Elders, their saint force protective layering shuddered for a moment as if they were about to break under the strain. The two Grand Elders grew shocked. The attack of the splinters was far more ferocious than they had thought. Without any more hesitation, the two let out a roar as a surge of saint force exploded from within their bodies and solidified the protections around their bodies even more. Because of this added defense, their barriers solidified, but the consumption to their saint force was extremely taxing. They would not be able to maintain them for long. Advanced Earth Tier Battle Skill. Splendid Flames. One of the two Grand Elders boomed. The fire elements in the world began to form a 2-meter-long sphere of flames that then shot toward Jian Chen. The other Grand Elder took the chance to escape from the barrage of splinters and shouted, "Void Executioner!" With that, the Grand Elder's giant sword let out a dazzling ray of yellow light as it swung toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen's hands unfurled from his chest as he began to control the splinters filling the air to form two giant swords. Both swords grew bright with an azure and violet color and were 10 meters long and half a meter in thickness. Swish! Seeing the azure and violet light, the two swords made from tree splinters instantly flew toward the two Grand Elders. Bang! One sword made contact with the ball of flames, creating a loud explosion. The ball of flames ruptured, filling the entire area with its fire and coloring the place red. Even the nearby clouds evaporated from the fire. At the same time, the other sword clashed with the sword of the Grand Elder. The wooden sword from Jian Chen was smashed apart by the Grand Elder's advanced Earth Tier battle skill. But the Grand Elder had been affected since his battle skill was cancelled before it could be fully used. "Take on my Void Executioner one more time," the Grand Elder shouted as he used his battle skill once more on Jian Chen. Jian Chen's lips revealed a small smile. If it was a Heaven Tier battle skill, it would have done just a small amount of damage to him, but an Earth Tier battle skill would have no effect on him. Bang! Bang! Another group of trees exploded underneath them before the splinters formed another long sword that shot into the sky. The two sides met head-on, the newly formed sword blocking the Grand Elder's Void Executioner. Having his Earth-tier battle skill blocked by the opponent so easily twice now, the Grand Elder of the Hua Yun sect couldn't help but lose his cool for a moment. The Void Executioner was the strongest battle skill he had in his repertoire, and if that did not do anything, he had no other options left. Damn it, let's see how many times you can accept my attacks, Void Executioner. The Grand Elder's veins began to bulge with exertion and impatience. For him to be so helpless against a 21-year-old, this was something his honor would not accept. Thus he used his battle skill a third time. Brother, I'll be there in a moment. Seventh Sword Stance of the Flame God. The other Grand Elder's hand held a flaming sword that flew at Jian Chen, creating a pincer attack. It's over. Jian Chen spoke softly as the azure and violet color glows began to fade away. A rich substance of azure and violet sword chi shot out from his right hand as the origin energy of the sword spirits followed after it. The origin energy of the sword spirits left behind a splendid light as it flew through the sky before making contact with the saint weapon of the Elder using the Void Executioner battle skill. Ding! Following the clean breaking sound, the origin energy broke a part off of the saint weapon as if it was tofu. The Grand Elder let out a mouthful of blood before he flew back and looked at Jian Chen in shock. At the same time, the other Grand Elder approached Jian Chen and prepared to cut him down with the yellow color-infused saint weapon. Brandishing the origin energy of the sword spirits without fear, Jian Chen clashed with the other Grand Elder. Straight after the clash, the Grand Elder let out a look of shock as blood slipped out from his mouth before he flew back. Impossible! How did you damage my saint weapon? The Grand Elder shouted in complete shock and disbelief. Not willing to let either of the two go, Jian Chen allowed the wind elements in the air to speed him toward the two men. With the origin energy, he slashed at one of the two, forcing the Grand Elder to bring up his saint weapon to defend it. Ding! Once again, the Grand Elder's saint weapon gained another jagged edge to it. With the saint weapon taking damage, the Grand Elder took on damage as well, coughing out another 3 mouthfuls of blood and turning deathly pale. After the exchange, the two Grand Elders knew just how terrifying this origin energy Jian Chen was. The other Grand Elder immediately knew that Jian Chen wasn't going to stop attacking and quickly shouted several words. Chongyang Shengtian, stay your hand. Stopping for a moment, Jian Chen wrapped the wind element around his body as he rose into the sky with his handsome figure. The origin energy sword in his right hand continued to swallow up the air around it, making him look like a powerful war god. Jian Chen looked to the Grand Elder that had spoken without saying a single word. The Grand Elder with a gap in his saint weapon looked at the other heavily injured Grand Elder and let out a sigh. After a long period of hesitation, he spoke with resignation. We lose. As he spoke, the Grand Elder looked as if he had aged. His elderly face sagged in depression. The other Grand Elder floated in midair with a stunned look on his face. He didn't even attempt to wipe the blood from his mouth and it spilled onto his clothes as he vacantly stood there. This result was something that no one could have predicted or accept. These two elderly Heaven Saint Masters had fought together and still ended up losing to the younger generation. What was more humiliating was the fact that this youth was still just 21 years old. AI age. We have aged. There is no other words to describe it. Chongyang Shengtian, you've won. We have lost to your hand. The Grand Elder sighed with a depressed look. Saya flew up from down below with a look of disbelief, knowing that he was in a perilous situation now. Absorbing the origin energy, Jian Chen wrapped both hands around his chest. Fellow Grand Elders, we should take care of our remaining business. After this, we will be able to go home. The two Grand Elders let out long sighs as they nodded. Without another word, they turned to fly toward the Hua Yun sect grounds. All the disciples back at the sect instantly dropped whatever they were doing and gathered where the four were returning. A chattering sound could be heard as they gathered. The chattering sound instantly died down when the four landed on the ground.